The first time Claire Whitaker asked me to kiss her, she blamed it on homework. We were alone in a nearly empty campus library, rain rattling the tall windows, her short story spread between us on a scarred oak table. On page 11, two characters who looked suspiciously like us had stopped pretending they were only friends. Then Claire touched the paragraph with one finger and asked, "Would you kiss me like that?" I was 24 years old enough to know some questions could wreck your life even when they were whispered. My name is Mason Reed. At the time, I was finishing a communications degree at Westbridge College while working 4 nights a week at a downtown hotel. I checked in traveling salesmen, delivered replacement towels, and occasionally convinced intoxicated wedding guests that the decorative fountain was not a hot tub. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid tuition. The one class I took purely because I wanted to was Advanced Fiction Workshop, which was how I met Claire. She was 23, majoring in accounting because her father believed creative writing was a charming route to unemployment. She wore soft blue sweaters, kept 3 pens tucked behind one ear, and wrote stories on the backs of financial spreadsheets. She also had a habit of looking directly at people when they spoke, as if whatever they said might matter. That was dangerous for a man like me. I'd grown up in a family where feelings were handled like electrical fires. Shut off the power, back away slowly, and never admit who caused the damage. My parents had stayed married for 27 miserable years before finally divorcing, each blaming the other for all the conversations they'd avoided. I reacted by becoming dependable, polite, and nearly impossible to know. Claire noticed within 2 weeks. "You're very good at asking follow-up questions," she told me after class one afternoon. "Thank you." That wasn't a compliment. We were walking toward the student center under a sky the color of wet cement. She had stolen my coffee because hers was empty, though she insisted this was resource sharing rather than theft. "What's wrong with follow-up questions?" I asked. "They keep the conversation focused on the other person." "Most people like that. I'm not most people." That unfortunately was true. Claire could make a silent room feel occupied. She laughed with her whole face, argued with professors without being disrespectful, and had once spent 20 minutes convincing me that the campus statue of its founder looked disappointed in everyone's footwear. She was also a very good writer. Her stories were funny until they suddenly weren't. A woman would be burning toast, or missing a bus, or fighting with a vending machine, and then one clean sentence would reveal she had been lonely for 5 years. Claire wrote emotion the way some people slipped medicine into a dog's food. You swallowed before realizing what she'd done. We became workshop partners in September. By October, we were meeting every Thursday at the library. By November, she knew I hated raisins, called my older sister every Sunday, and carried a hotel master key by accident more often than any employee should probably admit. I knew Claire tapped her thumbnail against her coffee lid when anxious. I knew she secretly wanted to write a novel. I knew she had dated one man seriously during sophomore year and had ended it when he kept introducing her as the future accountant. "What did you want him to call you?" I'd asked. My name would have been a thrilling start. She had smiled when she said it, but the hurt had remained in her eyes. That was the thing between us. The jokes came easily. The truth usually followed, quieter and harder to ignore. I was attracted to her long before I admitted it. Not because she was beautiful, though she was. Claire had dark, chin-length curls that never stayed where she put them, warm brown eyes, and a small gap between her front teeth she tried not to show in photographs. I wanted her because she paid attention. Because she could be kind without becoming soft-headed. Because when I read something good in class, she looked pleased rather than threatened. And because she challenged me. The problem was that our friendship mattered. I'd never had one like it, especially with a woman I couldn't stop noticing. Claire had become the person I texted after difficult shifts, and the person who knew when "I'm fine" meant, "Give me 5 minutes, then ask again." I wasn't going to gamble that away for a kiss she might regret. So I behaved. Mostly. The story appeared on a Thursday night in early December. Claire arrived at our usual table 10 minutes late, damp from the rain and clutching a stapled manuscript against her chest. "You look guilty," I said. I always look guilty in libraries. Too many rules posted in small print. She sat beside me instead of across from me. That was unusual enough to get my attention. "How bad is it?" I asked. I need you to read something. Your workshop submission? Not exactly. She slid the manuscript over. The title was The Space Between Stops. It followed two college students stranded on the last bus during a thunderstorm. The man worked nights at a hotel. The woman had a practical major she didn't love. They argued about whether the bus driver was lost, shared a packet of peanut butter crackers, and spent 11 pages avoiding the fact that they wanted each other. I looked sideways at Claire. She was studying the dark window as if the rain had become academically significant. Subtle, I said. It's fiction. The man has a scar on his chin. Scars are common. From falling off a bicycle at 12, children are reckless. He hates raisins. Everyone with moral judgment hates raisins. I laughed and her shoulders loosened. Then I turned the page. The fictional bus had broken down beneath an overpass. The two characters were alone in the back while rain hammered the roof. The woman confessed that she kept inventing reasons to sit beside him. The man admitted he'd noticed everyone. Then she asked him to kiss her. Claire had written the moment with startling restraint. His hand came up slowly, giving her time to move away. She leaned into his palm. Their first kiss wasn't described as fireworks or thunder or anything else designed to make a reader roll their eyes. It was written as recognition, as if they had arrived somewhere both of them already knew. I read the paragraph twice. When I finally looked up, Claire was watching me. The library's overhead lights had been dimmed for closing. Beyond the glass, the campus paths shone black with rain. We were close enough that her knee rested against mine beneath the table. She didn't move it. Well, she asked. My throat had gone dry. It's good. That sounded painful. It's very good. But I'm wondering why your fictional male lead has stolen my entire biography. Not your entire biography, he likes jazz. I like jazz? Her mouth twitched. I didn't know that. There, he's officially me. Claire looked down at the pages, her fingers tightened slightly around the corner. Does that bother you? The joking answer was ready. I could have used it, let her laugh, and carried us safely back into friendship. Instead, I said, only if the woman isn't you. Her eyes lifted to mine. The air changed. There was no dramatic crash of thunder, just the quiet buzz of the lights and the soft scrape of a chair somewhere on the floor below us. Claire's knee pressed more firmly against mine. She is, she said. I should have asked what that meant. I should have clarified whether she was experimenting with the scene or trying to tell me something she couldn't say directly. Instead, I glanced at page 11 again. You made me sound braver than I am. No, her voice softened. I wrote you the way I see you. That landed harder than any compliment I'd ever received. Claire turned toward me in her chair. The movement brought her close enough that I caught the scent of rain in her hair and the faint cinnamon of the gum she always carried. Her gaze dropped briefly to my mouth, then returned to my eyes. She placed one finger on the kiss she had written for us. Would you kiss me like that? She asked. My heart gave one hard, humiliating thud. If I kissed you, I said, I don't think I could pretend it was research. Claire held my gaze. Then she reached over, closed my laptop, and whispered, Good, I'm tired of pretending too. Then don't, Claire said. Don't what? Pretend. Her bravery left me nowhere to hide. I lifted my hand slowly, just as she had written it. My fingertips brushed a damp curl away from her cheek, then settled against the warmth of her skin. Claire leaned into my palm. That small movement nearly undid me. Still want me to? I asked. Yes. I kissed her. There were no fireworks. Claire had been right about that. There was only the first soft touch of her mouth, the sharp intake of her breath, and the astonishing realization that I had spent months imagining something less powerful than the truth. Her hand caught in the front of my shirt. I tilted my head and kissed her again, deeper this time. She made a quiet sound against my lips that erased every sensible thought in my head. I wanted to pull her closer. I wanted to learn exactly how she liked to be kissed. I wanted the library to close around us and leave us there until morning. Instead, a voice crackled through the overhead speakers. The library will close in 10 minutes. Claire drew back, breathing unevenly. That announcement lacked sensitivity. She whispered, It could have been worse. How? They could have reminded us that food and drinks aren't allowed. She laughed, her forehead dropping against mine. I kept my hand on her cheek. She kept hers curled in my shirt. For one suspended moment, it felt strangely natural. Not like we had crossed a line, but like the line had always been imaginary. Then Claire lifted her head. What happens now? It was a reasonable question, which was probably why I panicked. We don't have to make it complicated, I said. Her hand released my shirt. The change in her expression was slight but immediate. Warmth retreating. Guard returning. Right, she said. Of course. I knew that tone. Claire used it when someone disappointed her, and she intended to make the escape easy for them. I caught her hand before she could turn away. That came out wrong. It seemed fairly streamlined. I don't mean the kiss was casual. What do you mean? My instincts urged me toward a safe answer, something vague and charming, something that would preserve all possible exits. Claire waited. I looked at our joined hands and forced myself to tell the truth. I mean, I've wanted to do that for months, and now I'm afraid I'll ruin the best friendship I've ever had. She went still. I continued before courage failed me. I mean, I don't know how to be relaxed about you. So when you asked what happens next, my brain supplied the stupidest available sentence. That does sound like your brain. Thank you. Also not a compliment. Her thumb moved once across my knuckles. The guard in her eyes softened but didn't disappear. I don't need a 5-year plan, Mason. I just don't want to be treated like an awkward event we agree not to discuss. You aren't. Then ask me out. I blinked. Now? Preferably before the library staff removes us physically. I smiled. Claire, would you have dinner with me tomorrow? She pretended to consider it. That depends. On? Whether you intend to call it dinner or two friends consuming nutrients in a low-pressure environment. A date, I said. I'm asking you on a date. Her smile showed the small gap between her teeth. I'd love to. We packed our bags and stepped outside beneath the library awning. The rain had weakened to a silver mist. Claire opened her umbrella, and we walked toward her residence hall, pressed shoulder to shoulder beneath it. Halfway there, she slipped her hand into mine. No teasing. No explanation. I looked down at our fingers, then at her. Watch where you're going, she said. Romantic head injuries are still head injuries. I walked her to the entrance. We lingered beneath the stone arch while rain ticked against the umbrella above us. This is where I'd normally say goodnight, she said. What do you say abnormally? She rose onto her toes and kissed me once, quick and sure. Tomorrow at 7. Then she disappeared inside. I stood in the rain for another full minute before realizing she had taken the umbrella with her. Our first official date was at a 24-hour diner called Bees, chosen because my hotel shift started at 10 and Claire said any restaurant with cloth napkins would make us behave unnaturally. She was already in a booth when I arrived, wearing a green dress beneath her winter coat. I stopped beside the table. Claire glanced down at herself. Too much? No. The answer came so quickly that she smiled. You look beautiful, I said. A blush rose along her cheeks. You look surprisingly employable. I wore my least damaged shirt. I'm honored. Dinner was grilled cheese, tomato soup, and an argument over whether our professor's obsession with semicolons constituted a moral failure. Yet everything felt different. Every glance held an extra second. Every accidental touch became deliberate. Under the table, Claire rested her foot against mine. After we ate, neither of us reached for our coats. I ordered coffee I didn't need. She ordered pie she claimed she didn't want, then fed me the first bite. This feels suspiciously easy, I said. Her fork paused. Is that bad? No, just unfamiliar. Claire studied me. Your parents? I had told her the facts of their divorce, but not much beyond them. My parents could turn choosing a pizza topping into evidence of emotional betrayal, I said. Being with someone always seemed exhausting. And this doesn't? Not yet. You haven't seen how I load a dishwasher. I can survive adversity. I smiled, but she kept watching me. What about you? I asked. Why did you write us instead of telling me? She set down her fork. Because on paper, I control what happens after the confession. And off paper, people get uncomfortable. Or they tell you your feelings are flattering, which is a particularly elegant form of rejection. She traced the rim of her coffee cup. My ex liked me best when I fit the version of me he'd already planned. Practical degree, practical job, practical wife. The last word sat between us. Did you want that? I wanted him to see me. Her eyes lifted. He didn't. I reached across the table and took her hand. I see you. Claire's expression tightened with sudden emotion. Do you? You tap your coffee lid when you're nervous. You pretend you hate attention, but only because most people give it carelessly. You want to write a novel and you keep calling it impractical because it hurts less than admitting you're afraid it might not be good. Her fingers closed around mine. You save the corner pieces of brownies because you think they're objectively superior. You talk to dogs before their owners. You edit your text messages 3 times when they matter. I rubbed my thumb over her knuckles. And when you're hurt, you make it very easy for the person who hurt you to leave. Claire looked down. I learned that from my mother, she said quietly. Doesn't mean I'm going to use the exit. She turned her hand beneath mine, palm to palm. You're saying a lot of dangerously good things tonight. I had pie, it made me reckless. She laughed, but her eyes shone. When we left B's, snow had begun mixing with the rain. We stood beside my car while the diner's neon sign painted the wet pavement red. I have 9 minutes before I need to leave, I said. Claire stepped closer and slid both hands beneath my open coat. What could we possibly do in 9 minutes? Discuss semicolons? Tragic answer. She kissed me before I could improve it. This kiss was nothing like the library. There was no hesitation now. Claire backed me lightly against the car door, and my hands found her waist. She was warm beneath the thin fabric of her dress, soft and real and choosing me. When her lips parted under mine, I forgot about work. I forgot about weather. I nearly forgot my own name. Claire finally drew back, cheeks flushed. You have 3 minutes. I can be late. No, I refuse to become the reason you're fired. You'd visit me in poverty. I'd bring semicolons. My phone rang inside my coat. I groaned and pulled it out. My sister's name glowed on the screen. I should make sure it isn't an emergency. Claire nodded and stayed tucked against me while I answered. My sister didn't bother saying hello. Please tell me you finally told the hotel in Chicago you're accepting. The deadline is tonight. Claire went completely still in my arms. I closed my eyes. Because 3 weeks earlier, before page 11 and that first kiss, I had accepted a management position 800 miles away. And I hadn't told Claire. I ended the call and lowered the phone. Claire stepped out of my arms. Chicago? She asked. It's a management training program. 800 miles away. Yes. And the deadline is tonight? To confirm in writing, I accepted verbally 3 weeks ago. The hurt in her face was worse because she wasn't angry yet. We talk every day, Mason. I know. You knew I was considering an accounting offer in the city. You knew I was terrified of getting trapped in a life I didn't choose. But you didn't think your plans were worth mentioning? I hadn't decided what I wanted. You just said you accepted. Because it's a good job. Better pay, actual advancement, benefits. I understand employment. That isn't what I meant. No, you meant you had sensible reasons. She folded her arms, shutting out the cold in me. What I don't understand is why you kept it from me. The honest answer made me look terrible. I liked what we had, I said. I didn't want graduation hanging over it. Claire stared at me. So you decided not to tell me because that was easier for you. Yes. The single word seemed to surprise both of us. I could have defended myself. I could have said we had only been friends when I received the offer or that I hadn't known she wanted me until the night before. But friends deserve the truth too. I'm sorry, I said. You should have heard it from me. She looked toward the diner windows where strangers sat in warm booths and lived simpler lives. Are you going? I don't know. You need to decide by midnight. I know. And you're due at work. I looked at the time. Claire, Go. We're not solving this beside your car in 3 minutes. Will you talk to me tomorrow? Her eyes returned to mine. Yes, I'm hurt, not cruel. I wanted to kiss her, but I no longer knew if she wanted that. So I opened the passenger door, took out the umbrella I'd brought, and handed it to her. Claire accepted it. Then, just before she turned away, she touched 2 fingers to my wrist. The gesture lasted barely a second. It still felt like hope. At 11:42 that night, I sat behind the hotel's front desk with the Chicago confirmation open on my computer. The salary was more money than anyone in my family had made at 24. The program would rotate me through guest services, operations, and event management. Within 2 years, I could be running a property. It was the kind of opportunity responsible people accepted. I thought about Claire asking what happened next. Then I thought about my first answer. We don't have to make it complicated. Avoiding uncertainty had shaped more of my life than I wanted to admit. I had chosen a useful major, a steady industry, and relationships that demanded almost nothing from me. Even Chicago appealed partly because it gave me a clean exit from everything graduation might complicate. That didn't make it a bad opportunity. It did mean I needed to stop pretending practicality and fear were the same thing. I requested a 1-week extension. Then I texted Claire. I didn't accept or decline. I asked for time to make an honest decision, and I owe you an honest conversation tomorrow. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Library, noon, page 11 table. Claire was already there when I arrived. 2 coffees waited between us. Is one of those poisoned? I asked. You'll have to choose bravely. I sat beside her, leaving a careful few inches between us. I'm sorry, I said. No jokes first. No explanations disguised as excuses. I should have told you. Yes. I accepted because I was scared of graduating without a plan. Then I didn't mention it because I was scared you'd matter enough to change one. Her expression shifted. I kept going. I'm not turning it down because we kissed. That would put pressure on you neither of us deserves. But I'm also not going to act like what's happening between us is irrelevant. What is happening between us? I looked directly at her. I'm falling for you. The library seemed even quieter than before. Claire's lips parted, but no words came. I don't expect you to say it back, I added. I know it's fast. It is fast. I know. And inconvenient. Extremely. You could have waited until after I drank the possibly poisoned coffee. Poor timing. Her eyes filled, though she smiled. I'm falling for you, too, you idiot. Relief struck so hard I laughed. Claire closed the space between us. Her hands framed my face, and she kissed me with none of the caution she'd shown the night before. I wrapped an arm around her waist and pulled her against me. A student at the next table cleared his throat. Claire broke the kiss just long enough to whisper, He's only jealous because his table doesn't have a page 11. Then she kissed me again. When we finally separated, she kept her forehead against mine. I need to tell you something too, she said. My stomach tightened. There's a hotel in Alaska? I applied to 4 creative writing graduate programs. I drew back enough to see her face. Your father knows? No, as far as he's concerned, I'm choosing between 2 accounting firms. What programs? Boston, Iowa City, Austin, and Chicago. I stared at her. Claire gave a nervous laugh. Please don't interpret that last one as fate. I applied in October, before we were workshop partners. Before I knew about your tragic raisin prejudice? Then why didn't you tell me? Because saying it aloud makes it real. And if I don't get into any of them, I can quietly accept the accounting job and pretend I never wanted something else. There it was, her version of my Chicago offer, another secret constructed to soften future disappointment. I took her hand. You see the problem, right? That we're both emotionally defective? That we're both trying to control the ending by hiding important pages. Claire looked at our joined hands. I don't want to do that anymore. Neither do I. So what do? We tell each other the truth, even when it complicates things. And Chicago? I visit. I ask questions. I decide whether I actually want the job or just the certainty. She nodded. Good. And you tell your father you applied to writing programs. Her head snapped up. Let's not become reckless. I smiled. Eventually. We made rules that afternoon. No promises about where we would live after graduation. No sacrificing opportunities just to prove something. No pretending distance didn't matter. Most importantly, no withholding decisions that affected us both. Then we left the library holding hands. The next 6 weeks were the happiest I could remember. Claire studied in the hotel lobby during my quieter shifts. I attended an accounting department reception and whispered invented scandals about the faculty until she nearly choked on sparkling water. We kissed in my car, in empty lecture halls, and once in the baking aisle of a grocery store after disagreeing about brownie mix. She read me the first chapters of the novel she claimed that she wasn't writing. I told her I'd chosen communications because my father called it practical, not because I loved it. I admitted that what I really enjoyed was fixing failing systems, hotels, events, teams, and that Chicago's training program genuinely excited me. Then you should go see it, she said. You're sure? No, but I'm trying to love you without turning you into a character whose choices I control. It was the first time either of us used the word love. Claire froze. I smiled slowly. You love me? That sentence was clearly theoretical. Sounded specific. It was an editorial oversight. I kissed her until she stopped arguing. In February, I flew to Chicago for the interview weekend. The program was everything promised, demanding, fast-paced, full of people who spoke about hospitality as if it were architecture. I could picture myself there. That frightened me. On Sunday evening, I landed and drove directly to Claire's apartment. She opened the door before I knocked, launching herself into my arms. I held her tightly, breathing in cinnamon and shampoo. I missed you, she murmured. I missed you too. She kissed me, but tension lived beneath it. When I set her down, I noticed the envelope on the kitchen counter. Boston University. Claire followed my gaze. It came yesterday, she said. My chest tightened. And? She picked up the letter, her hand trembling. Full tuition, she whispered, and a teaching stipend. It was everything she wanted. It was also 1,000 miles from Chicago. Claire looked at me with joy and fear battling in her eyes. I got in, Mason. I pulled her into my arms and told her I was proud. But over her shoulder, I saw my unopened Chicago offer glowing on her laptop. Both letters required an answer by the same date. For several seconds, we stood holding each other between two futures. Then Claire pulled back. Say something honest. I looked at her acceptance letter. I'm terrified that if I tell you to choose Boston, you'll think I don't want you. And if you ask me not to, I'll hate myself for making your dream smaller. She nodded slowly. My turn? Please. I want Boston. Her voice shook. And I want you. I'm furious that those things don't fit neatly together. The truth hurt, but not as much as a lie would have. I want Chicago, I admitted. And I love you. Claire's eyes filled. I love you too. I kissed her in the small kitchen, surrounded by envelopes and impossible distances. She clung to me as if love could be measured by how tightly we held on. Maybe we both knew it couldn't. But that night we tried. We sat on her floor with our laptops and built a plan. Direct flights, alternating visits, Sunday video calls, shared holidays. Chicago's program lasted 2 years, Boston's took 3. Neither location had to be permanent. We can do 2 years, Claire said. We can. You don't sound convinced. I'm trying not to make promises based on airport maps. She shut her laptop. Do you want to try? Yes. It was the easiest truth in the room. We accepted our offers the next morning. For the remainder of the semester, the future became a shadow at the edge of everything good. We ignored it when we could. Claire read from the space between stops at the department's spring showcase. Sitting in the front row, I listened as she reached page 11 and described our first kiss to an audience of 80 people. Her cheeks turned pink, but her voice never faltered. Afterward, I found her backstage. You made the male lead too handsome, I said. He's fictional. I took liberties. I pulled her against me. You were incredible. Her nervous smile softened. You're not embarrassed? By everyone knowing you wanted to kiss me? By everyone knowing how much I wanted to. I brushed my thumb across her lower lip. I'm planning to become unbearable about it. She kissed me behind the curtain while the next reader discussed grief under fluorescent lights. At graduation, Claire's father learned about Boston. He didn't cause a scene. That would have been easier. He simply looked at her cap and gown and asked whether she intended to waste 4 years of practical education. Claire's fingers found mine. No, she said. I intend to use the rest of my life. Then she introduced me as the person who had read her novel before anyone else. Not her classmate, not her friend. The person who had seen her dream and stayed. I had never been prouder to stand beside someone. 3 weeks later, I moved to Chicago. Claire moved to Boston in August. At first, distance felt almost romantic. We sent photographs of our apartments, mailed each other local coffee, and fell asleep with video calls running. I flew to Boston in September. Claire met me outside baggage claim wearing my college sweatshirt. She ran the last few steps and jumped into my arms, laughing as I lifted her. An elderly man passing us said, "That's either love or a very good tax refund." "Love," Claire told him. Then she kissed me until an airport employee asked us to clear the walkway. The weekend was perfect in all the dangerous ways. We wandered through bookstores, ate noodles from takeout cartons on her floor, and spent Sunday morning tangled beneath her blankets while rain streaked the windows. She traced the scar on my chin. "Tell me something you haven't said on the phone," she whispered. I could have told her the truth. I was exhausted. The training program was relentless, my supervisor had resigned, and I had begun waking at 4 in the morning with lists running through my head. Instead, I kissed her fingertip. I've developed strong opinions about hotel carpet. Claire narrowed her eyes. That isn't vulnerable. Hotel carpet is my inner life. She smiled, but disappointment flickered behind it. I noticed. Then I did what I'd always done. I asked her a question about herself. By November, our Sunday calls had become negotiations between competing schedules. Claire taught first-year composition, attended workshops, and wrote until midnight. I rotated through hotel departments, often covering shifts when someone called out. We still said, "I love you." We just started saying it while checking the time. The week before Thanksgiving, I was supposed to fly to Boston. 2 days before the trip, a plumbing failure shut down 40 rooms during a sold-out convention. My director asked me to stay. I agreed. Then I waited 6 hours to tell Claire. Her face on my screen went very quiet. "You've known since noon?" I was trying to fix it. Were you trying to fix it or avoiding telling me? I rubbed both hands over my face. Does it matter? I can't come. Yes, Mason, it matters. I didn't want to disappoint you until I knew for sure. So you let me spend the whole day looking forward to something you knew probably wasn't happening. I'm sorry. You always say that after making the decision alone. Fatigue sharpened my voice. What was I supposed to do? Let 200 guests arrive without rooms because my girlfriend misses me? Claire flinched. The second I heard the sentence, I wanted it back. That isn't what I meant. No, it's what you say when you're tired enough to stop editing. I miss you too. But you don't reach for me when things are hard. You disappear and return with an explanation. I'm trying to build a career. So am I. And I still tell you when I'm scared. I still let you matter while I'm making decisions. I stood and paced across my apartment. What do you want from me, Claire? I want to stop feeling like another demand on your schedule. You aren't. Then why do I only get the manageable parts of you? I had no answer. Claire waited anyway. Finally, she looked down. Maybe love isn't enough if we keep using it to promise a closeness we don't actually have. Fear rose in me, immediate and defensive. Are you breaking up with me? I'm asking whether we're still choosing each other or just refusing to admit this isn't working. I chose you. I'm on the phone, aren't I? Her face crumpled. I knew at once I had said the wrong thing again. Claire, I can't keep teaching you that being present is more than not leaving. The call ended. For 3 days, she didn't answer. On the fourth, a package arrived. Inside was the original copy of The Space Between Stops. Claire had revised the ending. After the kiss, the fictional couple got off the broken bus at different stations. They promised to call. They promised the distance was temporary. Then the man stopped telling the woman when he was afraid. The last line read, "She could not write him brave forever." I sat on my kitchen floor and read it until anger burned through the hurt. Not anger at Claire, at myself. She had told me exactly what she needed from the beginning. Not certainty, not sacrifice, not a perfect plan. She needed to be allowed into the unfinished parts. I called her and left a message. No follow-up questions, I said. No polished version. I'm overwhelmed at work, and I've been afraid that if you see me struggling, you'll stop believing I can build a future with you. So I hid it. Then I punished you for noticing. My voice broke. I love you, but you're right. That isn't enough unless I let it change how I show up. I'm going to give you the space you asked for. I just need you to know. I finally understand the ending. Then I did something harder than making a promise. I changed my life in small, practical ways. I stopped volunteering for every crisis at work. I told my director I wanted to discuss long-term placements, including the company's Boston properties. I found a counselor and admitted I had built my entire personality around appearing low maintenance. Claire didn't call. 2 weeks passed. Then my director offered me an interview for an operations position at a hotel in Cambridge. It wasn't a demotion or an escape. It was work I genuinely wanted in a city where the woman I loved was building the life she wanted. I didn't tell Claire. Not because I was hiding it, but because the interview wasn't a grand gesture she had to reward. I needed to know I would make the change even if she never took me back. I got the job. On the morning I signed the offer, an email arrived from Claire. Her graduate program was hosting a public reading that Friday. The message contained no apology and no declaration. Only one sentence. I rewrote the ending again, and I think you should hear it. I flew to Boston on Friday. The reading was held in a converted church near campus with rows of wooden chairs facing a low stage. I slipped into the back as Claire approached the microphone. She wore the green dress from our first date. For one selfish second, I wondered if that meant something. Then I reminded myself that her choice to invite me was enough. I had come to listen, not to force an ending. Claire opened her manuscript. "The space between stops," she said. Her gaze traveled across the audience and found me. Her breath caught. Then she began. The story was mostly as I remembered it. The broken bus, the peanut butter crackers, the woman inventing reasons to sit beside the man she loved. Page 11 still contained the kiss. But Claire had changed what came after. The characters moved to different cities. They missed calls, concealed fears, and confused love with the absence of conflict. The man hid inside usefulness. The woman hid inside stories, rewriting him on paper instead of speaking to him. I lowered my head. She hadn't made herself innocent. On the final page, the woman returned to the bus station where they'd first met. She didn't know whether the man would come. She only knew she was finished controlling conversations by writing both sides. Then he arrived. Not with a promise to become someone else, but with the truth about who he was trying to become. Claire read the last line slowly. Neither of them knew where the bus would stop next. For once, they didn't need to. He held out his hand. She took it, and together they chose the uncertainty. The room went silent. Then the audience applauded. Claire's eyes remained on mine. I stood there with my heart exposed, waiting while people congratulated her. Several minutes passed before she walked toward me. Up close, I could see that her hands were trembling. "Hi," she said. "Hi. You came. You asked." That hasn't always been enough. No, I swallowed. But it should have been. People moved around us toward the reception tables. Neither of us did. Claire held the manuscript against her chest. "I listened to your message every day for a week. I meant all of it. I know." Her eyes glistened. I also realized I turned our relationship into another story I could control. Sending you that ending instead of answering your calls was cruel. You were hurt. I was, but hurt people still make choices. She drew a shaky breath. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry too." The familiar words might have been empty once. This time they felt like a door opening. I've been seeing a counselor, I said. I'm learning why my version of being dependable involves never letting anyone help me. Claire's mouth curved faintly. That sounds inconvenient. Deeply. Apparently, I have emotions even when I don't schedule them. I suspected. And I talked to my director. I stopped treating exhaustion like proof of ambition. Good. There's more, but I don't want you to think it's a trade. Her expression became cautious. What does that mean? I was offered an operations position in Cambridge. Claire stared at me. I start in January, I continued. I didn't apply only because you're here. The role is right for me, and the company has better boundaries. I accepted before I read your email. You're moving to Boston? Yes. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I wanted to wipe them away, but I kept my hands at my sides. This isn't a request for you to take me back, I said. I'm not presenting a new postal code as evidence that I've changed. I came because you invited me, and because wherever I live, I want to be someone who comes when the person he loves reaches for him. Claire set the manuscript on the nearest chair. Then she crossed the space between us and took my face in both hands. I didn't invite you just to hear the story. No, no. Her thumbs brushed my cheeks. I invited you because I still love you. And because I don't want the fictional version of us to be braver than we are. I closed my eyes for one unsteady second. What do you want? I asked. You, not the convenient parts. Not the version who always has an answer. She looked directly at me. I want the man who leaves frightened messages and goes to counseling and occasionally fails to understand dishwashers. You haven't seen how I load one. I'm choosing the uncertainty. I finally touched her, sliding one arm around her waist. Are you sure? Claire smiled through her tears. Would you kiss me like that? This time, I didn't hesitate. I kissed her in front of the emptying rows of chairs, one hand against her cheek and the other holding her close. She leaned into me with the same quiet trust she had offered in the library. But it wasn't recognition anymore. It was return. Someone applauded near the refreshment table. Claire laughed against my mouth and I kissed her again anyway. We didn't fix everything that night. I still lived in Chicago for 6 more weeks. We rebuilt slowly, with long calls that included the difficult parts and visits that neither of us treated as tests. When work overwhelmed me, I told her before I disappeared into it. When Claire felt afraid, she said so before turning the fear into fiction. In January, I moved into a small apartment 3 train stops from hers. She helped me unpack, criticized my towel folding technique, and left 3 pens beside my bed. We dated in the same city for a year before moving in together. Sharing a home taught us that love was less like page 11 and more like everything after it. It was grocery lists, deadlines, wet umbrellas, apologies offered before resentment hardened, and choosing to remain curious about a person you thought you knew. Claire finished her novel during her final year at Boston. It wasn't the space between stops. She said that story belonged only to us. Her novel found a publisher the following spring. On the morning she received the offer, she called me at the hotel and screamed so loudly my assistant heard it through the phone. I left work on time. That detail mattered to both of us. 3 years after the night in the library, we returned to Westbridge for our former professor's retirement celebration. It was raining, of course. Claire led me upstairs to our old table. Someone had carved a heart into the oak since we'd left. Vandalism, she said gravely. Very romantic. I took a folded sheet of paper from my coat and placed it in front of her. She unfolded it. At the top I had written, "The space between stops. Final revision." There was only one paragraph beneath the title. He had spent most of his life mistaking open doors for dangerous exits. Then, one rainy night, a woman wrote him into a love scene and asked him to be brave. Years later, at the same table, he asked her for the rest of the story. When Claire looked up, I was holding a ring. Her hand flew to her mouth. I don't know exactly what happens next, I said. I know there will be difficult years and wrong answers. I know I'll still try to hide when I'm afraid, and you'll occasionally rewrite my dialogue without permission. Your dialogue needs work, she whispered tearfully. But I want every unfinished page with you. Claire, will you marry me? She slid out of her chair and knelt in front of me. Yes. I put the ring on her finger with shaking hands. Then she kissed me beneath the dim library lights while rain tapped against the windows. We married the following autumn. At the reception, Claire placed the original page 11 in a frame beside our guest book. Under the kiss she had written for us, she added one final sentence in blue ink. The best part was everything they couldn't write in advance. What would you have done if your classmate had written you into a love scene and asked, "Would you kiss me like that?" Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell me your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships, where you'll get shorter, exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.